Okay, so prepared questions are, like I said, they were prepared by our committee, the ETNLP committee for this event. So each person will have 90 seconds. I will read the question and show the order. Now that there are 6 people and 5 questions, 6 if you count the introduction section, everybody's going to be able to go first at some point. So I've arranged it in that way. So question number 1, what makes you uniquely prepared or qualified for the position you are trying to fill? Order of candidate answers: Tricia, Dave Jones, Marcus, Zach, David, and Kenna. Okay, 90-second timer again. I don't know if this one beeps or not, so just watch for it.
All right, so you think I would be used to these forums. I'm not. I definitely don't like things first. However, this is probably the worst question because this is the talk about how great you are question. And I'm like, I'm a politician. I'm terrible at this. I think that what makes me uniquely prepared for the position that I'm trying to get, chair, sorry, is, I hate to do it, but being an elected official puts me in a good position. And it also, earning and working up to that has trained me in a way to be able to interact in what I think the chair should be doing, which is, you know, a lot of the PR stuff that goes on in the party. So I'm confident that I can do that and that I can represent the LPTN well in that regard. I also have a wealth of experience in leadership from the Army. And, you know, I like to say, I think that Montgomery County would attest that I've proven my leadership in that regard in party politics. I'm gonna go ahead and cede the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, Dave.
All right. Well, what I believe makes me uniquely prepared and qualified for the position of chair is I have served this state at the chair level, both at the county and regional level. So I have experience in being a chair, both at county, both at regional, and leading those regions. And also, as I said earlier, one of the things that I believe makes me uniquely qualified is the 9-to-5 job that I do, quality systems engineer. One of the companies that I used to do work for, I would travel around the state, the region, the country, and help businesses set up their business management systems and how those systems interact with each other. I've also worked several different campaigns in different capacities, anywhere from social media to boots on the ground events planning, all the way up to a deputy campaign manager on campaigns both at a national, state, or local level. So I believe all of those things working together, the experience already working a chair within the Libertarian Party, my work-life experience, and the experience that I've gained on the campaign trail, all would help me enroll as your next state chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Marcus, not Blair, Marcus Baker.
Hey. So for this, I would say my time in the party, working to build the infrastructure, I was instrumental in building, at the time, the entire infrastructure that was in Delta region. I know what worked to get that region built up to where it was, although it was admittedly kind of an uphill battle the entire way. I think that in my role as VC, I would focus on building up the infrastructure, filling those county chair seats, filling, at least just getting a county affiliate started, even if there's not an official chair, and helping each region as I can, seeing who needs me the most and where I can spend my time the most. As I've said, my time will belong to the LPTN for the most part. As much as I can give, you have. Other than that, I would say my focus would be on the infrastructure, just building up the party. As for legislation, etc., I think that's more of a chair role to decide that, but I'd love to be a voice on that, and I know exactly where I would push for that.
Okay, thank you. Next is Zach.
You know how you have things to say lined up, but then they just escape you when the time comes. Yeah, that's me a lot. Anyways, so what makes me uniquely prepared or qualified for the position? Well, I've run a campaign my own, where I had to keep track of all of my expenses, or else I would get fined and or / go to jail. So that brings a lot of pressure to keep your books straight. Also have some knowledge of accounting. I've learned from my mother very well on how to do some accounting, how to run a budget, even a shoestring budget, coming from a poor family. So I mean that's basically what makes me qualified for the position, I feel. And I see my time.
Thank you, Zach. And next is David Tyler.
Yes, I'm ready. Okay, so what makes me uniquely qualified for treasurer of the Libertarian Party of Tennessee? Well, I am on the executive committee of several boards, like here locally, like I had said before. I have a unique experience inside organizational leadership structures, and I have a thorough understanding of how these things are fleshed out. I am working towards my finance degree currently right now. So I am, I have a financial background. I owned my own restaurant for about 5 years, and I was the business manager for another restaurant for another 10 years. I know how to manage money coming in and going out. I do bookkeeping for a living now, where I manage the money for, 2 restaurants currently, and none of them have gone under. But no, and it's more than just managing the money. I have more time, my own personal time, to use dedicated to activism within the party. There are ways we can improve, just our website, collecting more dues from people, and ways to get donations. And when that money comes in, we'll need to spend that money wisely when we do get that going. And we need to know what to spend the money on. I think if I work within this organization with these people, we can come to the right decision, and we'll have a good team with me on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. And this is Secretary, Kenna, not Treasurer.
Uniquely prepared. Like I said earlier, I feel prepared because I've been very in the know and in leadership for a long time. So I know our history. I know, I don't know what's worked, what hasn't worked. Just knowing the history of how things have gone is super useful. As far as secretarial things, I am a teacher by day, and I educate 14-year-olds. So I feel like being able to handle a classroom of 14-year-olds is very helpful in just managing anything. I also did event planning for the Jorgensen campaign this last year. So that was really awesome. I enjoy event planning anyway. I have always, and I have done various events, but that really made it real. And I learned to do things for political events. So I learned so much on that campaign, and I think I have a lot that I can bring to the table with that. I'm also just a weirdly organized person. Like when you just meet those people that are like, yeah, I love spreadsheets. That's me. 100% that's me. So those basic things. That's pretty much it.
Question number 2. What do you believe is the Libertarian Party's primary objective right now? Choose only one. Order of candidate answers would be Marcus, Dave Jones, Tricia, Kenna, David, and Zach. Marcus, if you're ready.
Yeah, sure. So my guess would be, again, building up that infrastructure so we can get our word out there, get known across the state. Even still, after, of course, breaking records with this last presidential campaign, the Libertarian Party is still not known, and even less so in local circles. I mean, you can go to into any county, and if you were to poll any of the population of any county, most of them would not know that the Libertarian Party exists. This is our primary issue and has been our primary issue. I think that building up the infrastructure, getting more people out there, getting people to go out and canvass would be most beneficial to us. And I guess that's all of my answer. I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Not all of these questions will take 90 seconds, so no pressure. Okay, Dave?
Well, to kind of talk to Marcus's point, I guess for the Libertarian Party of Tennessee, my main primary objective will be building up that infrastructure within the party, because being part of a business management background, in order to achieve any of the goals that we have set as a Libertarian Party, a good infrastructure and understanding about how the internal and external customers and suppliers interact with each other is very critical. It's also very critical that in the new committees that we are setting up, and down to the county chair, regional chair, volunteers, and candidates, that we set up clear roles, responsibilities, and authorities, and train those individuals on what those are, and those people who are participating, whether in a committee or as a county chair, is able to set different types of goals and objectives and monitor those goals and objectives. And when we do fall short of those goals and objectives, we're recognizing that, monitoring that, and making corrective action so that we can achieve those goals. Because without a good infrastructure, it will be difficult to meet our goals, whether that be electing more candidates across the state, building up our local affiliates, or doing activism across the state. All those systems need to work together in one cohesive, communicated, trained unit. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. Next one is Trisha.
All right. What is the Libertarian Party's primary objective right now at national, at state, at county level? I think that we have a lot of different primary objectives. So my opinion is that the party is a political party, and a political party by definition is put into practice to elect candidates and to legislate. In our case, to legislate liberty or de-legislate for more liberty. When we're talking about things like infrastructure, I have to make a guess at what we're talking about with that. I think we have everything in place that we need to do what we need to do. We just need to utilize the resources that we have, and we need to. I mean, we have so many resources, and a lot of times they get overlooked. And, the Libertarian Frontier Project, which is who helped me win my election, is, oh shoot, my timer just redid. So let me wrap up in 10 seconds. That is one of,
I don't know what it was. I'm sorry.
That is one of those resources that, a lot of people don't know about. And I think that we need to capitalize on the resources and systems that we already have in place. And I do think that candidates and winning elections is how we're going to grow the party and credibility across Tennessee.
Thank you. Okay. Kenneth?
Okay, mine's going to be simple. I think that our number one priority is that we need to build the I hate using the word membership, build the party, build the people, like get more people, get more events going, put ourselves in with activism, actually doing things and being more than a core group of 50 people. If we do that, And I think it goes along with what Trish, Dave, and Marcus are all saying. The way we're going to do that is building infrastructure. And once we do that, we're going to have a better chance at getting candidates. So growing the party, like the actual members and people that work in the party, is number one to me.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, hey, I'm ready. So I believe the primary goal, objective of the Libertarian Party should be to make more libertarians. So, you know, grow the party so that we can have people behind us when we need to legislate and when we need to get officials elected, because we need to do all of these things. I'd like to say the primary objective is one thing, make more libertarians, but there are many objectives we have to meet before we get to that goal. Improving our messaging so that we do not parrot the duopoly and we have a very unique message that is unique to the Libertarian Party. I think we should double down and focus on that. Spreading the message of liberty is the quickest way to make more libertarians. And we also need to win elections. All of the other candidates have mentioned infrastructure. And I had talked about in my introduction how I think that the previous administration had put in a lot of good systems in place. And Tricia Butler had highlighted that we're not currently using our resources to their fullest extent. And, you know, I have a lot of experience with a lot of the platforms we are using, and we can help drive new members to these platforms and utilize them to their fullest extent. I don't think we should reinvent the wheel. We should go ahead and move forward with the organization already put in place. Thank you.
Thank you. And Zach?
So the primary objective I think that the Libertarian Party should focus on right now is never has it been more clear in history that freedom and liberty are on the very extremes of society right now. I think the focus of the Libertarian Party should be to educate the public, to move the Overton window, to make it to where freedom is not such a radical and unattainable goal. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Zach. Okay, question number 3. Name the most impactful book you've ever read about the philosophy of liberty. Order of candidate answers: Kenna, Marcus, Zach, David, Trisha, and Dave Jones. And Kenny, you ready?
I'm so excited. This is going to give me major negative points, and that's fine. I don't read philosophy books, you guys. Number one thing you should know about me, I love to read. I hate to read stuff like this. I hate reading nonfiction, and I'm a history major. How dumb is that? About the only thing I have actually read is the law, because if you have met Justin, he will let nobody around him if they haven't read that. It's so dumb. I don't really read this stuff. I am what a good friend of mine that was formerly in the party coined as a natural libertarian. I grew up with libertarian values. My parents own a business. I grew up learning about how much in taxes they paid, and the economic side of libertarianism is what really pulled me into the party, along with just growing up in a, I don't know, Christian, we love everybody. Everybody is great, and it's not my problem what you do. It's not that's up to you and whoever you're with. So I'm sorry. I don't read any philosophy books. I don't read libertarian things. So we can go with the law, but I really would like to say none, because I just don't read that stuff. Thank you. I yield the remainder of my time to the chair.
That's okay. I'll admit that when I first read this question, before we were deciding if it was going to be a part of the event, I was like, ooh, the only thing I've read is Atlas Shrugged. That is not even nonfiction. So
I think this is one of the #1 questions libertarians like to ask. I don't know why. They always ask it.
All right. Well, I'm too busy making pink PowerPoints to read. Okay, Marcus.
Sure. I'm actually going to join Kenna here. I don't read philosophy either. And same as she said, yeah, I get this question quite a lot. I don't have a favorite philosopher in that regard. There are a lot that I like, but I've not read any full books. I've read short articles, and I love to read. I read all the time. I'm like again, I read fiction. I prefer fiction, but I can answer this in a sense. I can't say that I've read Atlas Shrugged. I have seen the movies that were made. They were cheap indie movies, but they were actually well put together. But about a book, there was actually a fantasy series that I read that referenced Ayn Rand all the time and used her philosophies or her philosophy throughout the book. It had a much more authoritarian slant than I would like, but for the most part, it had that message of personal freedom. I think it, more than anything else, set me down the path to finding libertarianism, starting as a very conservative Christian Republican. That series would be, pardon me, Sword of Truth.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, Dave.
Well, as far as the most impactful book, what really kind of brought me to the philosophy of libertarianism was kind of like Kenneth said, just living that environment growing up and being in an environment like that. I grew up poor in southern Middle Tennessee in the foothills of the Appalachians. So growing up, I saw the impact of over governance and into the communities. I've seen friends, family members whose lives were disrupted and even ruined at a very young age by government interference and government over policing and things like that. But so that's really kind of what brought me to libertarianism as far as the philosophy of as far as authors go. I guess a little bit more non-traditional route than a lot of people is I know they never really self-identified as libertarians, but authors like Hunter S. Thompson and George Carlin really influenced me at a young age by kind of pointing out the ills with the government and how they go into the communities. And since joining the movement, more of the economical side I've latched on to, but really life experiences has been my big one. And then authors, Hunter S. Thompson.
Thank you, Dave. Next, we have Trisha.
I'm gonna circle back around to we don't read books. I am not into philosophy. I liked how Kenneth said natural, libertarian naturally. I don't do books. My answer to this question would probably be Animal Farm or Lord of the Flies. So I am, however, just starting a poli-sci minor in college. So this is actually now the political book I've ever read, and I'm on chapter 3. So yeah, I'm not a big philosophy reader either. And if you know me for any amount of time, I admit that on the regular. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Trisha. David.
Well, hi. I actually read books. I'm not making fun of everybody. No, the most impactful book I've read about the philosophy of liberty was The Revolution, a Manifesto by Ron Paul. So back in 2007, I got involved with the Ron Paul campaign here locally, and I canvassed during the Republican primaries for Ron Paul. And I was very much a part of the revolution. And after his campaign, you know, I could, anything Ron Paul did, I could get my hands on, I did it. And that book helped really solidify, a lot of my libertarian beliefs that I like. Tricia had said earlier, I didn't know what to call it. It just, Ron Paul helped put it all into words for me. And, since then I've did Human Action. I can't read it. It was too academic for me, but I listened to it, and Bob Murphy's take on it was pretty good too. So because of the revolution, I've read several different books, and also Kenna had mentioned Bastiat's The Law, and that was another one that really helps. It's a good introduction to just the thought, libertarian thought. Which I try not to pander too much, but I also recommend since I have some time here left. I also recommend the Expanse series of books. It's sci-fi opera, but it's super libertarian, and the TV show is really cool. So that's it.
That's great. It's more than the rest of us had, apparently. But I think you're under 90. Okay, Zach, you ready?
Yeah. I never learned how to read. That's a joke. I don't read very often. What I do like to do is read letters sometimes. It's not a book, and it's not by a philosopher of liberty. My favorite thing that really started making me think libertarian was George Washington's farewell address. He got it right in that letter. When he talked about how parties and party politics would be the downfall of this nation. So that's what's really impacted me towards the liberty movement in general. Not necessarily to the Libertarian Party, but to the liberty movement in general. I yield.
Thank you. Question 4. For Yvonne, I'm going to be more clear about what's on the page because I forgot that she requested that at the beginning. It's a half bright pink, half white screen that on the left side has questions listed out, and then an order of candidate answers on the right. So question number 4. LP members, Libertarian Party members, are required to affirm the non-aggression principle. Define the NAP in your own words and explain its significance to the LP. Order of candidates, David, Zach, Dave Jones, Tricia, Kenna, and Marcus. Sorry. Okay, David.
So the non-aggression principle is the non-initiation of force. Sorry. So for me, it's property rights. I own my own mind, and I own my own body, and I can do as I see fit with my mind and my body, as long as I do not take that freedom from someone else. And I believe that, the number one aggressor, the number one violator of the non-aggression principle is government. And I think our job as Libertarian Party to further the non-aggression principle is to, once again, grow the party here locally and win elections until we can dismantle it piece by piece. Thank you. I see the rest of my time.
Thank you. Next person is Zach.
So NAP, in my own words, be don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Don't act unless aggressed upon, and in doing so, you act with a swift defensive motion. I agree wholeheartedly with David. The largest violator of the NAP is government and its cronies. It's the whole reason that the Libertarian Party mascot is the porcupine. It looks entirely docile until you try to step or sit or poke or prod at it, and it will quill you. Thank you. I cede my time.
Thank you, Zach. Next is Dave Jones.
Well, the non-aggression principle is very important to me, as I'm sure it's very important to everyone who's on this call tonight, because it's one of the things that probably brought us all here, brought us all to the movement. As David alluded to, it is ownership over ourselves and our property and our lives to do as we see fit, as long as we do no harm to anyone else or steal their things. And I think it's very important to Tennesseans, the non-aggression principle. The non-aggression principle has been a tenet of the belief system of Tennesseans since we first crossed through the Cumberland Gap into the Appalachian Mountains. That how's your mama and them, that I just won't be left alone in the hills to make my moon shine and without any kind of government interference. I mean, when you look at the NAP, it's peace, it's love. But at the same time, if you aggress against us, we do have the right to defend ourselves. And it's that mess around and find out mentality that we want to live as peaceful human beings. But we don't want to be aggressed upon. And as David said, the biggest aggressor of that is government. So using force against the people of the United States, people anywhere, the NAP is at the heart of why I joined this party and why I fight so hard as a libertarian today.
Thank you, Dave. Tricia?
So in my own words, the non-aggression principle is leave me the hell alone and I will leave you the hell alone. Mind your own damn business. It's as easy as that. And if you're not going to do that, then we're going to throw down. And that is all I got.
Thank you. And Kenneth.
Okay, the non-aggression principle, as everybody said, is don't initiate force, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Great. I think that is very significant to the LP because when I first signed it, I thought, well, duh. Like, isn't this just like what we learned as children? But what I found is that can be applied to so many parts of government legislation, just living your life, and other parties don't quite get it. So I think the NAP is something that can help differentiate if you really do feel libertarian or if you are libertarian or not. And simply as can be, I explain it to teenagers on a regular basis because we talk politics a lot. And I say, honestly, I tell them, I said, what it is you know what's best for you. You know how to take care of you. So do that. Don't worry about anybody else. Nobody else is going to worry about you. That's my, like, I guess, 9th grade version of it. So, yeah.
Thank you. I like the 9th grade version. Okay, Marcus?
Yeah, it's any individual or entity, such as a business or organization, rejecting the use of force to achieve any goal. So I have a little bit of a story on this, if you don't mind. When I came in, the NAP was the thing that was, the non-aggression principle was the thing that was preached the most to me when I became involved, when I started getting involved with the Libertarian Party. At the time, the Delta Regional was Bo Brown, who is a left-leaning libertarian, or was, I'm not sure of his current status, actually. He pounded home the NAP more than anything else. He welcomed any members, everyone, regardless of their opinion on property rights, while focusing on the NAP more than anything else. And so that has been my primary thing. While I never agreed with his more left libertarian leanings, I never agreed with his views on property rights. He was an atheist as well. He could never change my mind on my religion either. I did develop a passion, I guess, for the NAP. Non-aggression principle is, I mean, the reason it's number 1 in the SOP, it is the most important thing to the LP. Force makes everything corrupt or wrong, evil.
Thank you. Okay, question number 5. The last question. What do you believe the expectation should be, if any, of LPTN officers when representing themselves and the LP on public forums? Order of candidate answers will be Zach, David Tyler, Tricia, Dave Jones, Marcus, Kenna. Zach.
I would think there'd be an expectation of being welcoming to new people that are just getting their kind of their sea legs, but for liberty, and not be so quick to jump down throats of people that aren't entirely there yet. For some people, it's a journey. For some people, they've always been there. But also be prepared to be able to defend why you are so staunchly libertarian. I believe we need to have both of those, a healthy balance of both of those.
Thank you. David Tyler?
Yeah, well, the officers of the Libertarian Party of Tennessee are elected, and so they are representatives of the state of Tennessee Libertarian Party members. I believe if an LPTN officer is on a public forum representing the LP, they need to be doing the work of the LP, which is making more libertarians. Jumping upon messaging and reacting to the news that you see from the duopoly is not exactly a good use of our time as officers. I believe that, once again, as I've said previous times, that we have messaging that is unique to us and is universal at solving more problems than anything proposed by the other two parties. We cannot spend all of our time being reactionaries to the mainstream news of the day and whatever social media wave you want to ride. We should be in the business of spreading the message of liberty, making sure that people hear us loud and clear through the fog of war that we're in right now with these other two parties. We have to be using our time as elected officers to embolden the people below us and make sure that the rest of the people of this state who are members of the party feel good in their representation. I see the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, well, if I can get it to go, Tricia.
Mimicking the previous speaker, no, he's spot on with so much of what Dave just said. I'm sorry, Tyler. I come off as harsh and stringent. Y'all have known me for a while. That is my personality, all right? And this is one of those things that I feel that way about. I understand that we are a party of liberty, and I understand and I support the Constitution and the First Amendment in all ways. When I elect you to represent the party, I expect you to do it in a non-biased and non-harmful way. There is messaging that is controversial that we can absolutely utilize, okay, especially to draw interest to the party. But we need to be cohesive, and it all needs to follow the NAP, and it needs to not alienate people. It can be blunt and truthful, just like I am, without being alienating. And I think that when you take the position as an officer, you are taking the place of being the spokesperson for the party, and that should be respected.
Thank you. Dave Jones?
Well, going back and looking at it, freedom of speech is not freedom of consequences. We are being elected into any kind of position, in this case, being elected into a executive officer position within the party comes with a certain amount of responsibility, because the people who are electing you, you are a voice for them. You work for them. If you are to be elected into any position within this party, you represent every libertarian Tennessean in the entire state. And when people see inflammatory remarks coming from people who may be a part of this board, it can be very disheartening to a lot of the people who are members of the party. I believe in coming, I love my baby libertarians coming into the party. I always believe in coming with truth first off and forward, but also coming with that voice of compassion and that voice of love that the party represents. And you got to think to yourself, when you're posting something on social media, how is this going to affect the people of Tennessee? Are people running for office? Are people running county affiliates? Are people who are in committees? And being elected official is a privilege. It is not a right. So we must respect that in our voices on online forums.
Thank you. Oh, Marcus.
Yes. So I have some experience with this, having to represent myself working as Delta Regional. It was on Facebook. There was a question or a comment on one of my posts from the Delta region. Totally unrelated. It asked a question about Kane, or the governor of, the mayor of Knoxville, Knox County, Glenn Jacobs. It asked questions about his party status, etc. It was in a very, accusatory vein. And instead of responding, with a little bit of admittedly snark that I might have on my normal threads on Facebook, I answered with complete professionalism and not speaking my own views necessarily, but simply sticking to what I consider the LP standards of professionalism and being conciliatory. I mean, being diplomatic, as diplomatic as possible. You never want to turn someone off simply by responding with anger or too much passion with your own response.
Thank you. And Kenna?
Okay. I'm going to answer to my role specifically rather than just in general for the secretary, because I feel like it's very different. And this is why I like secretary, is because I get to stay out of the light just a little bit. And so the things that I think the secretary role, and other roles as well, but specifically mine, should be is welcoming. First off, it's very welcoming and informative. Whenever somebody asks a question about the ongoings, something with email, something with what does the Libertarian Party believe? What is this? What is that? Usually if it's what do they believe, I try to defer to somebody else because they just do it more eloquently than I do. But if it's something like, hey, what's going on in this county? I'm like, this is the person to talk to. I like to, and I think the role should connect people, should inform people, and should be welcoming. So that's what I try to uphold, and that's what I will continue to try to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have time for questions from the audience. We have about 17 minutes, so does anyone have anything for the general group or any individual? I guess I can monitor the chat.
I do. This
Okay,
is
go ahead.
Yvonne. Okay, we're going to make a meme. And on the picture is a porcupine with your face. What's your text? I want everybody to answer.
This is Kenna. I would not know, and I would defer to the marketing committee, to be very honest with you.
I always really like fuck around and find out, personally.
That's fair. Okay, next one. David Tyler,
I like-
anyone?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, gosh. No, diamond hands, hold the line. I don't know.
Poodle.
Memes. Yeah.
Hold the line.
Buy GameStonk.
Trisha, you jumped in. Sorry to cut you off.
As the LPTN chair, I am gonna go with Kenna's choice. But if this was Trish Butler, it would probably say along the lines of, you know, taking over the world to leave you alone.
Nice. Dave Jones or Marcus, either one?
Well, if it was one of me, probably going back to the nap, you know, mess with a nap, take a nap or something like that.
I guess it would be something along the lines of join us. We're the only ones with principle.
Thank you. We do have one question in the chat. It is for our chair candidates, so Dave and Trisha. In the last question, I guess Trisha went first for the meme question. I don't know who went first on question number 5, but we'll go Dave first, Dave Jones. For our chair candidates, how would you treat the anarchists in our party?
Well, going back to the anarchists in our party, going back nearly 50 years ago when this party was formed in the living room out in Colorado, I mean, the anarchists within this party were an essential part of that. When you go back into libertarian history, looking up the Dallas Accord, anarchists were a huge part of this party. I've worked with several anarchists, both at building the state party and in campaign levels. And I found anarchists are some of the hardest working people that you can work with. They'll get down, they'll roll up their sleeves, and they'll get their hands dirty. So I believe that anarchists absolutely do have a place within the Libertarian Party. I mean, historically and currently, definitely wouldn't want to reject anyone who's offering to come into this party, roll up their sleeves and do work just based off of an end game philosophy of theirs. If they're willing to come into the party, adhere to the NAP, and work with us towards the common goal of challenging the cult of the omnipotent state and seeing a world set free in our lifetime, absolutely anarchists have a history in the party. And that's my view.
Thank you. Trisha, you want to jump in?
Be it known that I live in a household with 4 registered libertarians, and 2.5 of them are anarchists. So I would treat the anarchists in the party as the chair, just like everyone else in the party. I have been outspokenly, not against caucuses, but kind of, we're all libertarians first. And that is literally the part that matters to me, the NAP and, you know, your ability, your propensity toward liberty and freedom. So how would I treat the anarchists in our party? Like everyone else in our party.
Thank you so much. I wasn't looking at the chat. Next question, we have a question for the general group. I'm not going to call names unless it gets quiet. What is that?
I don't think I answered that question.
Oh, it was for chair candidates specifically. Sorry.
Oh, no, I am so sorry.
No problem. For the general group is, do you think that those that reject private property rights in opposition to our statement of principles, item number 3, have a place in the Libertarian Party? Maybe clarification on statement of principles, item number 3, Dave Spinner on chat. Do you have that? or unless everyone knew what it was and not me. The text sign.
I'm going to throw in a very politician-y sounding response, but I swear it's not. It's just I like people and I'm very nice. I don't like that thought. I don't like the idea of not having private property. I think that is truly a violation of our rights. But at the same time, if there's somebody that wants to work with our party on other issues that are like we agree on, I'm all for it. But maybe our agreements end at a certain point, and that could be the point. And I don't think those people, I think everywhere has a place for disagreement, arguments, and such. But I don't think there is a lot of room for some viewpoints to have a big place in the party. So I think personally that would be one that I don't agree with, but I also wouldn't just shun somebody that has that opinion. I would say, well, how can we work together? What can we work together on? That area we don't agree, but where do we agree? And where can we find a place to work together? Which answers most any realm, caucus, little cohort opinion. Sorry, I'm not trying to take up a lot of time. I used to think that we all go down a road and some people have exits at certain places and some people, anarchists, probably make it to the very end. I have an exit earlier on. Pragmatics probably have a very early exit. And there could be some people that are only on the road next to the interstate, but we're still going in the same direction for a little while. That was my visual I always have. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Clarification as well for anyone who needed it. The right of property, accordingly, we oppose all government interference with private property such as confiscation, nationalization, and eminent domain, and support the prohibition of robbery, trespass, fraud, and, well, lots of typing happening and I'm missing it. Trespass, fraud, and misrepresentation. Anybody want to jump in?
I'll go ahead if no one else.
Marcus, yes, thank you.
Sure. So I'll answer that directly. So I will never agree with dropping that part of the SOP. I believe in private property rights almost as strongly as the NAP. I mean, it is one of my most important beliefs. Anything that happens on my property or anything I do with my property, no one else's business at all. No government's business. Now, past that, as for people who have a difference on that view, their place in the party, I don't think that they actually do have a place in the party. However, I will not be a gatekeeper and I will not encourage any gatekeeping. As Kenna was saying, I will work with anyone as far as they can work with us. My only condition would be if they represent us. While they're representing us, they have to, at least if it's the best that they can do, not talk about their view on property rights if they disagree with that. As long as they represent us entirely and don't go at odds with us, don't contrast with our beliefs, then I will work with them as long as they're willing to work with us. Then,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and and as far as it goes, people having a place in the party, it's like I talked about earlier. I love my baby libertarians that have come into the party, and a lot of times people can come into this party that don't necessarily have 100% lockstep view with our statement of principles. And I think it's important to approach those people who may have an adversity, possibly to the instant right here with property rights, is to approach those people and help guide them along the path, and kind of be that big brother to them that you can talk to and explain, the purpose of the NAP, private property rights, extending not only from land property, but self ownership as private property. And absolutely, if they want to come in and do work within the party, but also while observing the NAP, that's one of the things that we've got to do when we come to this party is observe the non-aggression principle. And part of observing that non-aggression principle is observing the fact that we do have private property rights. However, you know, if someone has the certain types of viewpoints about private property rights, but it's a voluntary situation where someone wants to start a commune or something, or it's a voluntary situation where they, within their commune, want to abolish private property rights, as long as it's a voluntary interaction and they don't come around screwing around with someone who doesn't believe that point. But I do believe that they have a place in the party, and I do believe that being able to talk to them and educate them and come to them with that voice of compassion and love. And you know, we just set up an environment of liberty here in this party, and the people who aren't going to be able to accept that environment or don't want to work in that environment, I believe those people will naturally work their way out of this party without, as Marcus said, us doing any kind of gatekeeping.
So I think that the person that has walked with me on this path the best has been Tom Arnold. I came from the GOP, and you know, a lot of that ingrained stuff in your head, like about I'm kind of a stringent person. I have a way that I think things should look, and I kind of get wound up in you know, whether or not we're adhering to those things. And I think that we should be very careful whenever we decide to choose who to or not to include in the party. I do think that this is one of those things that you have to apply the NAP to. I could hold a personal feeling towards something, and as long as I'm not enforcing it, or you know, as the NAP says, I'm not initiating force through political goals to achieve it, then who are we to say that that someone can't be in the party? And it was Tom that said, you know, kind of back to what Kenneth said. He's like, I know you're not there yet, but I'm here because I think you'll get there one day, you know? So I guess that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you. One person hasn't answered, right?
So I can respond to that.
Okay.
So I agree wholeheartedly with the third statement of principle there, but I want to echo more of what Tricia Butler just said. You know, and even what Marcus had said, Marcus Baker had said earlier, and that is, you know, gatekeeping. We don't want to gatekeep people out, and for the particular reason that Tricia Butler had just mentioned with Tom Arnold. Those people are here because they're seeking the truth, and they don't know the truth. They may not know what the third statement of principles are, or even disagree with it. But if we gatekeep those people out, we lose the opportunity to educate them or show them the truth of what real libertarianism is from the inside. You know, should these people make it to leadership? I don't think so. I would not like to see that. But that's incumbent upon us as libertarians to do a good job about putting our message out there and make sure that, you know, we're fighting somebody with bad ideas that is the antithesis of our ideals, that we're fighting those with the word of libertarianism and the non-aggression principle. But that's all I'd have to add to that. Thank you. Oh, and I'd also like to add, I have great respect for Mr. Benner, and I appreciate his question.
Thank you. Did everyone get a chance to answer?
I didn't answer, but I also hold no opinion and won't pretend to act like I do.
Okay. Thank you. So we're right at 9 o'clock, so I'm going to say that we're good. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for the candidates for speaking and answering, and Suzanne for making this a venue of breaking news. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you at convention on the 20th.
You guys did a great job, Allison. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you. And thank you for participating. And all of you who asked questions.